Alright, today on the channel, the latest cool toy that we're going to take a look at is Elevator Action. This is, of course, the latest release from Numskull Arcades and their quarter scale arcade lineup. This is one of 3 Taito arcade releases that they've done recently. They did Kicks, they did Zookeeper, and Elevator Action. So kind of a nice little trilogy of classic arcade titles. This one of my favorites to play. It's got action, you got a gun. I mean, what more could you want as a kid? You know, you like to go pew, 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 shoot your targets. You play as Agent 17 going up 30 floors, trying to get those top secret documents. And of course, Numskull, they always go with the extra details. Something unique to this cabinet that is not really found on any of their previous releases is this one has the illuminated kind of graphical marquee area, which is really, really cool. As we examine it up close, we of course have the classic artwork on these sides. Nothing really fancy about it. It is kind of bland, I will give you that, but when you have a slew of Taito games lined up, it does really look nice. Bubble Bobble being the first release they had, so you got a bright blue artwork on Bubble Bobble, and then you got brown over here for Elevator Action. You go with Kicks, you got a different color, and the same thing with Zookeeper, of course, having its actual unique artwork. So, you know, they do a good job of having at least varied colors with their standard Taito artwork, but you know, the front of this thing looks gorgeous with your bezel, your marquee. You know, like I said, again, we have the light up little graphical area underneath the display. Got, you know, our jump and fire buttons, ambidextrous control, so you can fire on both left or right sides. Nice 4-way joystick there. Player 1, player 2 in the front, and we got light up coin buttons. As with all the Numskull releases, they got the classic arcade details, so you got the little handhold areas there. So if you were to, you know, put this on a dolly and transport it around the arcade like, you know, operators had to do back in the day, those nice cutouts were always handy for people to wheel them around. This is number 13 in the release series of the quarter scale arcades. Got the arcade vent there. We have our volume wheel, of course, USB-C charging port, our LED battery indicator, and then of course our power switch. And we'll actually go ahead and turn on the power. I'm going to hold the player 1 and player 2 start buttons in as I do that, because I want to go into the dip switch settings, and that's how we're going to do that. You're going to hold the player 1 and player 2 buttons like I'm doing like that. You know, it's going to boot up. It's going to show you that Quarter Arcades logo by Numskull. Hold it, and then we're going to go straight into the dip switch settings. So when it comes to our dip switch options, we can change our bonus life, point total. Very easy to do. Put it down on free play. It essentially is on free play, but you wouldn't have to hit the little coin buttons on the front. So if you want to just kind of bypass that completely, change the number of lives available. You can flip the screen, change it between cabinet mode, cocktail mode. Obviously, it really doesn't make sense to put it on cocktail mode. You can change the credit amounts, difficulty, coinage display, year display, and you can basically turn on invincibility and your coinage, whether you wanted to coin up on the A slot or the B slot, and that's it. So pretty straightforward when it comes to the dip switch settings. So not only do we have our traditional illuminated marquee up top, which looks great, specifically with the shading of the Elevator Action. They did a good job with the print work up there, but we have this illuminated control panel / monitor shroud, which is unique to Elevator Action. And specifically when Numskull was developing this cabinet, I remember them putting up prototype sample images out there on their official Facebook group, and people were quickly asking, hey, are you gonna make sure that lights up? And Numskull was like, wait a minute, the full-size cabinet that we're using, you know, to replicate this from, it doesn't have a light up control panel. So they went over there and they looked at their machine and busted it open, and albeit, sure enough, it had burnout bulbs over the years that had never been changed. So that's one of the great things about Numskull is, you know, they'll go back to the drawing boards, they'll make sure things are right as rain, as most accurate as possible as they can, and they'll also, you know, work with the fans out there and make sure they get their feedback and input on all their devices, because, you know, it's really for the fans and by the fans, but the fans are really going to make sure and let you know if you're doing something right or wrong. So it's always nice that they've got an open ear. Speaking of the fan club, once you open up your package, there's an official little QR code that you can scan to join the Facebook fan group. And of course you have your instruction manual, tells you how to go into the dip switch settings and, you know, what each button does. You have your USB-C charging cable, of course, and then you got a nice little warranty card, QR code. I think just looking at this thing, it's a, you know, absolutely wonderful job. Of course, with these newer quarter arcade lineup releases, they've got the CRT kind of effect going on here. So they got a beveled lens on top of the standard LCD screen. So obviously, you know, still not going to be a CRT screen. Those haven't been made in many, many years and never will be made at this size in a modern day. But they do a great job of going in there and trying to give it that just traditional CRT look as best as they possibly can with modern technology. And I think this one does a really good job. It's not super glare happy, which I've seen on other products to where they bevel it maybe a little too much and it gets to where it's super attracting all the light, and you know, it's hard to play unless you've got a dim lit room. But I've got studio lights on this one, and unless I point it directly at my softbox lights, it's looking good. So let's go ahead and power this bad boy up as far as coins and get some gameplay.